All right, let's talk about something pretty much all of us do. Work. It's where we spend a huge chunk of our lives, right? Whether it's an office, a construction site, or a lab, we kind of take it for granted that it's going to be a safe place to be. But have you ever stopped to think about why it's safe, or who's making sure it stays that way? Okay, let's dig into the system that's designed to have your back on the job.
So who is making sure your job is safe? It seems like a simple question, but the answer, well, it's actually this powerful story about how a big government policy touches your life every single day. Because believe it or not, it wasn't always a guarantee that your boss had to keep you safe. That right? It had to be fought for.
You know, this whole story really kicks off with, well, with danger. For way too long, a lot of jobs were just plain hazardous, and people kind of just accepted it, it's part of the job. But then, the number of people getting sick or hurt just got too high to ignore. It became obvious that something had to change. This wasn't just a company problem anymore, it was a national one.
So what kind of dangers are we really talking about here? The law has a term for it: recognized hazards. And listen, this goes way beyond just, slipping on a wet floor. We're talking about serious stuff, like being around toxic chemicals day in and day out, or noise so loud it could literally destroy your hearing. We're talking dangerous machines, crazy heat or cold, even just plain unsanitary conditions. These were the real, life-altering threats that finally got Congress to step in.
Okay, so with all these dangers staring them in the face, Congress finally said enough is enough. And they didn't just write up some friendly suggestions. No way. They built a whole new system from the ground up, a framework that was going to completely change the game for employers, employees, and the workplace itself.
And here it is. The result of all that was the Occupational Safety and Health Act. You usually just hear it called the OSHA Act. Now, what's so powerful about this law is how incredibly clear its goal is. It's just one simple, direct mission: make sure employers provide a workplace that's free from recognized hazards. That one sentence, right there, set a brand new standard for every single job in the nation. It was a total game changer.
But look, a law is just words on paper unless you can actually make it happen, right? So the OSHA Act did more than just set a goal. It created an entire system to back it up. And at the heart of this system are two key players, two agencies working in tandem. So let's get to know them. All right, first up is OSHA. Now, if you think of the OSHA Act as the rulebook for workplace safety, then OSHA is the ref. They're the cop on the beat. Their whole job is to make sure everybody, and I mean everybody, is following those rules. See, OSHA is part of the U.S. Department of Labor, which means it has some serious federal muscle behind it. They are the true enforcement arm of the law. They're the boots on the ground, making sure those safety standards are being followed in every single state.
Okay, but that brings up a good question, right? Where do these safety rules actually come from? I mean, how does OSHA know exactly how loud is too loud, or how much of a certain chemical is dangerous? Well, that's where our second key player steps in, NIOSH. And if OSHA is the cop, NIOSH is the scientist. They're the brains of the whole operation.
NIOSH, that stands for the National Institute for Occupational Safety and Health. Their entire job is to do the research to figure out what's safe and what's not. They're the ones in the lab, running the tests and creating the hard science-backed standards that OSHA then takes and enforces.
So you see how this works? It's this perfect partnership. You've got NIOSH, the lab coats, figuring out the what is a safe level of exposure. Then you've got OSHA, the hard hats, handling the how. How do we make sure every job site actually follows that standard? They really are two sides of the same safety coin.
Okay, so we've got the law, we've got the enforcer, and we've got the researcher. It's a whole system. But at the end of the day, what does all this bureaucracy really mean for you, on your job? Well, it all boils down to one incredibly simple and incredibly powerful idea. You have a right to be safe at work.
This line right here, a place of employment free from recognized hazards, that is the absolute heart and soul of the OSHA Act. It is so much more than just legal jargon. It's a promise. It's a promise that you can go to your job, do your work, and come home at the end of the day safe and sound. That's the fundamental right this entire system is designed to protect.
And that kind of leaves us with a big question to think about. See, this act was written a long time ago. It was designed for the dangers of that era, heavy machinery, toxic fumes. But the workplace today, it's a completely different world. So what does a recognized hazard even mean now, in the 21st century? Are we talking about things like mental health and burnout? What about the safety of working from your kitchen table? It's a really important question, especially since our whole idea of what a workplace even is changing so fast.